I want to chat with you about this age-old conflict, and I think it's a very big issue in this day and age where men and women are both working, or women are bringing in some money and they are expecting the man to be keeping up with the housework and whatnot. So whether the man is working during the day or he's not, or he's at home too, or whatever the case may be around the scenario, a super common complaint from women is that he doesn't help out, quote unquote, help out. He doesn't clean, all those things. And so instead of accepting that and looking at solutions or seeing it as a deal breaker early on before even getting married, we nag for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years rather than seeing it for what it is. And so most men, while yes, you can have men that are tidy and maybe they're even, they're fairly good at keeping things tidy. They like things clean. That's a possibility. But they're not going to be interested in nesting and creating the decor and making the room feel a certain way and have it set up in a certain aesthetic. Sure, some men might be, but typically it's not. We want our homes a certain way. I love to have lots of plants. I have crystals. I like to have my home light and bright. And so I keep those crystal prisms in my window to catch light at certain times of the day in different rooms because that matters to me. I like to have books and things around me that make me feel inspired. I am very particular about like having nice bedding and having, yes, lots of pillows and cushions and throws and throw blankets. So I have those around the house because I like things to feel cozy and to look comfy, right? Most men don't give a shit about.
Summer's here and it's time to kickstart your fitness journey. Sign up this month and receive a complimentary fitness assessment and in-body composition testing to jumpstart your fitness journey. Join the WorldGate family and dive into summer feeling confident, healthy, and unstoppable. Visit us today and let's make this summer your best one yet. WorldGate Athletic Club and Spa, providing fitness for every body. Join today.
That stuff. They're fine with just a couch, a coffee table, and a television, a kitchen table, a bed, and a nightstand, right? They are not fussy about it. But we, as women, since the beginning of time, we have nested to create the home while the man was out hunting and foraging and getting what is needed for the family, while the women were looking after kids and nesting and creating, fluffing the nest, right? I know for me, I still do that. Like, if you've had babies, there's that phase that's like the nesting phase of pregnancy when your body's getting ready to give birth. So you start naturally wanting to nest, which is prepare for the arrival of this new being. But we still have that. I still have that. I go through phases where I need to rearrange things or just adjust things in my environment or switch things up or bring in something new. And because for me, the aesthetic and the look of a room is really important to me. I like to walk up into my home and my quartz countertops that I picked out that are like a creamy white and they have sparkles in them, like flecks of gold and sparkle. Like, I love my counters, and when the sun hits on it just right in the evening, you can see the sheen and the sparkle, the light catches the sparkle, and I love my counters. So when my kitchen is clear and my island is all polished and nice and I walk into my kitchen, it makes me like, it just feels good. When my living room is put together and the throw pillows are where they're supposed to be and the throw blanket is draped just right where it's supposed to be on the couch, I love it. When my teenagers come in and they've left socks and cups and nail polish and empty snack bags or whatever in my living room, it's an instant irritation, right? And so I think it's important to accept that a lot of times men are not going to be, and I'm not saying across the board because there are men that this would drive nuts as well. So I'm not trying to make a generalist statement here, but I think for the most part, we can say that women are the ones that are nagging their husbands to quote unquote help out clean up after themselves. And so if you see this, and so I'm talking to you if you're still in a relationship like this, you're dating or you're contemplating what you want in a new relationship, because I always have women start, jotting that stuff down, start visioning what are the characteristics that you would want in a man. Because if you are dating someone and you're in a newer relationship with someone and you see that they don't respect your space, they leave their shit everywhere, they have no problem with cooking themselves something and leaving all the dishes sitting there for you when they go off to work. If you're at home in the mornings or you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever it may be, or you come home from work and there it is sitting there for you to deal with, stuff that you didn't even use. This causes divorces, right? But we think that we'll get married. And the other piece to this too is a lot of us got married in our 20s when we didn't even know what we wanted. So we have to look at this too. A lot of women say, oh, I just wish I had have seen it then, or I don't know how I fell for this. Well, a large part of the issues that happen in marriage is we jump in too early, too young, before we even know what we want in a partner. We don't even know. We don't have the life experience. So we have to give ourselves some grace for not knowing. And then you're in it and you're like, oh, this isn't changing, or it's getting worse. Now you have kids to look after, babies, and you're dealing with that, with sleep deprivation and postpartum everything, depression, stress, anxiety, healing, stitches in your vagina, all this, and then there's mess everywhere, and you have them bitching that they don't want to get up with the baby. They don't want to disrupt their sleep because they have to get up in the morning. Like, you think that it's going to get better because you get married and have kids. And this is like the biggest thing we need to be throwing out there to the younger generation. If you have daughters, that you don't get married in your 20s. You date, you can sure have a relationship, but shacking up, getting, cohabitating before you are ready for that kind of commitment is almost always a mistake, because when we get into our 30s and we start realizing, and some of us, it's not until our 40s that we're like, and we're doing our own work and we're like, I would rather be sad and lonely on my own than be in something that just makes me miserable, stressed, tense, angry all the time. And so the moral of this little story here is, when we are trying to figure out where we went wrong so we don't repeat mistakes later on, because one of women's greatest fears when I ask them when they leave a narcissistic relationship is, I'm afraid to get married again. I'm afraid to date again. And so getting married is a big, big, big decision. It really is. And I have lots of mixed feelings about it as someone who obviously has been married once. I have mixed feelings about it, right? It's one of those things that women get this idea that if they get married, then the issues that they don't like are going to change, or they're just going to magically disappear, or they're just going to have less of a problem with it. But actually, that's not what happens. And those tend to be the reasons why it doesn't work out, or why the relationship is miserable in the first place. Because we're not taking enough time to really see, can I live with this trait or behavior or annoyance for the rest of my life? If a relationship is 80 to 90% good, can you live with the 10% annoyances and things that you don't like? Right? Is that something you can live with if the 80% is good, and that 80% includes many of your values and the things that you really value in a partner that make your life better? Right? Now, if that 10% is addictions, if it's pornography, if it's cheating, if it's their wandering eye, or that you can't trust them because they have shady behavior and they're eyeing up other women and chatting up other women, or emailing inappropriately, or they just have any of those abusive behaviors, there's a lot of women that will be like, I remember one woman saying, he's my soulmate, and then she starts listing off the 1,000,001 things that he does. I did an Instagram reel on that. I have it somewhere. Maybe I'll reshare it just for funsies. But it was like, he's my soulmate. But then the whole call was about all the fuckery that was going on. So if that 10% is sometimes they make bad jokes that annoy you, maybe they have quirks that might drive you nuts, but you can live with it. You know, we have to be able to discern, is this something and if you're going to get married, is this something I could live with for the rest of my life? Because we think that as soon as there's marriage and living together in the equation, that these issues are going to disappear and that it'll all just be fine. So back to the topic that really sparked this conversation is women complaining about the domestic labor. And while I don't think men should be making more work for their women, we do have to realize that the bulk of the nesting of a home is going to fall on us. And so then it's a conversation about, this doesn't mean that you just let a guy be a pig. No, that he's allowed to just leave shit around for you to do and act dumb like he doesn't know what needs to be done. He does. He's just choosing, he doesn't want to, right? He doesn't want to deal with it. Of course not. Who does? But this is like an age-old conflict in just about every relationship, right? Is, you know, can you do this? You left this mess. But then what that does is it turns us into mother hens with our men, and we lose attraction like stat. You lose attraction when you are mothering a man and nurturing a man and sending him with his bagged lunches and cleaning up after him and pressing his laundry and washing his underwear and socks. Like, that's mothering. That's not wife and partner. That's mother. And we have to decide, do we want to be a wife and partner, or do we want to be a mother to a man? And I know I'm talking to a lot of women who are married, are in relationships that are not working, or you're out of it and you're not, you know, a lot of the women that I'm working with at this time, they're not ready to be even thinking about new relationships. But I still have them, you know, getting clarity about what it is that they would even want. Like, what would those deal breakers be? And if you're in a relationship where both people are working and the house needs cleaning, and you know, there's things that need cleaning, like regularly, toilets, floors, basically toilets and floors, I feel like is like kitchen appliances. Those are things that, you know, they take upkeep. Hiring out, if that's something that both of you are not willing to take on the ongoing care of those things and the ongoing upkeep, is then you decide, all right, then we hire it out. Someone comes in once a week or twice a week to just do those things. And then that removes that pressure, right? And so whether you're in a relationship that the part of the 10% is just that, no, not just, your frustration is that they don't help out. They, you know, they're like little boys and you're mothering them. Can you live with that for the rest of your life? And if the answer is no, you know, why keep, you know, you can choose to just keep nagging about it, keep complaining. I mean, believe me, I've done it. I'm not pointing fingers until you realize you're like, I'm done with this. Like, there has to be two adults in a relationship. And when a grown man leaves stuff around for you to pick up, more than just on occasion, it might happen on occasion, right? Nobody's perfect. But if this is the ongoing thing, this is like having a teenager in your house and you're married to someone you have to nag and get on top of about things. I think I can speak for most women. We don't want that role. We want our men to lead and have their shit together and create a container for us with some structure, right? I love that. Like, honestly, I love that. I love the feeling of having a man create that structure and that like containment, not as in control or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But we end up settling for men that we have to mother and train and coach and raise. And we do this for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. And we wonder why we feel like we're going crazy, because we keep nagging and bitching about the same shit going on. Like, how many times? Write down how many times you have bitched and complained about the same things over and over and over. For how long? How many years? How long have you been together? That is the definition of insanity, and that will destroy your mental and physical health. Guaranteed. After a while of that nagging and nothing's changing. And this is where we get to learn from our mistakes and do differently next time, is realizing, okay, so you got married in your 20s. I think a lot of us did. We did not think about what we wanted. Things moved too fast. We just wanted the relationship. We didn't know necessarily even like what red flags were. We were young, we're naive. And if we came from a home where there was unhealthy toxicity or abuse, that makes us even more susceptible in our 20s to end up jumping in with someone like this. So we live and learn, right? And then when women are saying, I'm afraid of ending up in another toxic relationship, I can tell you that here's the thing. If you're afraid of it and you're going to do everything you can not to, the chances of it are very slim. It's when women just think, oh, it's just this guy. I'm going to just jump into this next one because this guy seems better, without doing any of their own work to realize, where did I go wrong? What parts of myself do I need to develop within me? What traits and shortcomings do I have that make me a match for that type of person? And as I talked about in a couple of episodes back, is the fear of standing up for ourselves, speaking up, setting a boundary. And one of the things that is crucial when you start dating again after a string of or a long-term narcissistic relationship or toxic abusive relationship is to speak up very early on, like from day one, about something you don't like, something that bothered you, something that is very important to you. If there is a boundary you need to set to communicate how you feel about something very early on, because what that does is, if this person does not have your best interest at heart, or they're shady, or they're narcissistic, they're not going to respect what you have to say. And you want to learn that very early on. But as women, if we're in our 20s with this fear of speaking up, people-pleasing patterning, then we weren't speaking up. And then we didn't understand what a healthy response was either. Instead, we try to take it on as if maybe we're not seeing it right, or we're not emotionally aware of what the root issue is, or we just overanalyze it to the nth degree instead of seeing it for what it is. And this is where we women go wrong, where we can be really stupid and naive because we think that if we just keep talking about it over and over and nag enough, that it's going to change. And that's on us. And yes, there is this whole phase of you end up buying a house, you have a bunch of kids, now you're stuck. Now you're like, oh my God, it's a big nightmare to get out of. Yes, indeed it is. And the younger the kids, the more so. 100%. I am not going to sit here and say, oh, just get up and leave. It's like, you don't deserve this. It's true that you don't deserve this, but just the getting up and leaving when you're so entangled, it is not easy to do. And so this is why we really need to be more discerning and careful with the partners that we choose. If you're feeling stuck and experiencing cycles of narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, circular communication, and you know that you need to leave and get a divorce, but you just can't seem to get that clarity and the strategy to execute and make a plan, I invite you to check out the Toxic Love Rehab. This is 1 year access to what is formerly known as my program, End the Cycle. You've probably heard it around these parts if you've been here for a while. But what it is it's a self-study 1-year membership, and it comes with a Mighty Network group. So if you have any questions and want to connect with other women in the program, you are able to do that and go through the program at your own pace. I pop into the group every now and then and I can answer questions. I have taken countless women through this program. So when you head to the page in the show notes, you will scroll down to the bottom and see endless feedback and testimonials and write-ups from women who have gone through this exact program. I've just rebranded it. I've bundled it up with some extra stuff, and you have an all-access pass to the whole thing, and I've just changed the name just to give it a little bit of a makeover, because the intent is for you to focus on your own recovery, not on changing him anymore, not trying to explain what he needs to do. It's about now, I need to fix me, and that's the whole focus and premise of the program. So if you're interested in diving in, you can head to the link in the show notes here and get instant access and get started today.